This is the Between Extraordinary Part 6. Let's do a bit of recap. So last time you did answer a couple of questions about two of your active threats. You have determined that the Limehouse Lurker is in fact a young person. And so that is where you're at. You have a new question there. What was the vampire's home life like before it was turned? If you answer this question, it allows you to resolve the threat by luring the vampire into a scene reminiscent of its home life and then destroying it, or making arrangements for it to safely feed on a regular basis. You currently have no clues towards this. The Shortage Slugger, you do have access to a brand new move because of the question you answered. That move is called Eternal Man. You command some of the Shortage Slugger's strength. When the keeper narrates a hunter's death as the result of a missed roll, you may mark a box below, there's 3 boxes, and say how through sheer brute strength and force of will, and perhaps the machinations of the occult, you actually survive. You all share this track. It can be used 3 times total. But there is a question to be answered with regards to just taking care of the Shortage Slugger threat as well. What is the Slugger's weakness? You have 2 clues towards that currently. The Demon of Kilburn Abbey is a brand new threat, and I believe that Ms. Belacqua tried to investigate it, if I recall correctly, but was...
Actually, Jakob was going to go there by himself. I foresaw some really terrible things in the cards and convinced him not to go.
That's right. Did anybody go start investigating this one? I guess not. Okay. Well, then it is wide open. I'll remind you that they found a little girl's body walled up in the Abbey, and upon finding that body, this Abbey is being tormented by demons. This case is pretty dangerous, and I think it cannot be left unchecked for very long. So just be aware of that. Taking a look at the hunters, a few conditions around. Poor Jakob has 3 whole conditions, actually. Mr. Constantine has 2, and the others just have 1 each. And so if there are no other questions, we will dive into the day phase. Now, normally, because you have 3 active threats, I would not introduce a brand new threat. You would be at the maximum. However, there are special side threats I can introduce, which bumps the total number up to 4 threats. And indeed, there is a side threat that is also on the table. Hargrave House's responsibilities are stacking up. Let's talk about that threat. You can follow along on the sheet if you wish. It is called The Reaver's Last Victim. The Reaver's Last Victim. Years ago, a former member of Hargrave House was captured and executed after it was discovered that he was the legendary killer Roger the Reaver. A shadow was lifted off of London back then, but some of its darkness remains to this day. The remains of his last victim, Anton Farrow, were never found. Every year, on the day of his death, one of Anton's family members has come to Hargrave House to lay down a bouquet of flowers, lacking a better place to do so. However, this year, they actually knocked on the door. When you opened the door, a middle-aged man, William Farrow, stood before you saying, "You know, my mother, Anton's mother, she's gotten really sick. She's old and life has taken a lot out of her. I don't think she has that much time left. I just wish we could know that Anton, well, had found some peace before she dies. You were supposed to be so good at this kind of stuff. How come none of you ever found him, huh? I guess you would have to care." After delivering his speech, he placed the flowers on the ground and left. I will pose the following to Lady Florence. Lady Florence, you knew Roger while you both worked at Hargrave House, Roger the Reaver. You knew what he was doing long before he was caught. Why did you never do anything about it?
I mean, it kind of feels like a classic Lady Florence thing. I was probably encouraging to do it to kind of see how far you would go. And maybe, oh, okay, so maybe this is maybe I could see that like viciousness in him, and at that time, maybe this was before Dominic joined, and it really felt like we needed that sort of like the sort of like muscle, the person who was like willing to go over that line. But they were always sort of like they were when Anton started, they were like delicate murders and that type of thing. And so I think that there was probably a little like nudging to see how if he could push it up and actually like confront things that were more fearsome than just average citizens.
Well, maybe even some of the people he killed like had it coming. I mean, maybe like they were part
Yeah,
of Hargrave House's, uh, docket, as it were.
that is fair.
I like it. That's very interesting. So you have one question. Where are the remains of Anton Pharaoh hidden? It is a complexity 2. And if you answer it, it allows you to resolve the side threat by finding his remains and letting his family lay them to rest. You also have an aspect of the Janus mask available here called the Mask of Apathy. Each hunter narrates a flashback to a time they were hurt deeply and no one cared. Furthermore, this side threat has a special rule that it's governed by. The information move is not available when investigating this side threat. Rather, once per day, whenever the hunters take the time to do so, you can narrate a short scene where you visit one of the crime scenes of Roger the Reaver, talk to relatives of the victims, go through official records, or do similar work. You then you have to name and describe one of the victims as part of this process. If you do this, you find a clue. You actually tell me what the clue is. It cannot conclusively answer the question. And so rather than invoking the dice, you just do a little tour of where Roger the Reaver did his work and hopefully gain some insight into where Anton Pharaoh might be. It's a very easy question, only complexity 2. And so let's go around the table and find out what everyone's interested in doing today. 3 active threats, 1 side threat. Ms. Belacqua.
I think your audio must have cut out in the middle there. I must have missed a prompt.
Oh, sorry, Ms. Belacqua. What do you want to do today?
I think that this is quite compelling. This murderous former Hargrave House member, and that she might plow through some of the papers in the library or some of his old, maybe even just look to see what Roger might have left behind, his notes and things.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. You actually have to visit one of the crime scenes that Roger the Reaver went to in order
Who
to
says
find a
Anton
clue.
wasn't killed in Hargrave
Well, that's a good point.
House?
Yeah, he might have. Maybe he was. I mean, did they find a body in Hargrave House? Like, if so,
I think
then
that ultimately how he got caught.
yeah, I think that's interesting. I love the idea of there was a body found in Hargrave House. You have to just describe the victim and name the victim, like who were they, what was their deal, and then you get to define the clue yourself. Like, I don't define it, you tell me what the clue is that might tell you where Anton Pharaoh's remains are hidden.
Then let me ponder that for a moment.
Yeah, you could be doing that. Let's cut over to Mr. Constantine.
So it was heavily implied last time that the Shoreditch Slugger is on a bit of a timer. So I think Dom's going to try, and he definitely has no alternative motivation here, but he's going to try and find what the Slugger's weakness might be.
By doing what?
Well, I know where he's staying,
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps he's not in at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. That's good. Lady Florence, are you feeling guilty because you're probably the reason why Anton Farrow's dead, or do you have other plans?
I am feeling a little guilty, but I'm not sure I want to get too deep into this yet because I might be entangled with whatever comes about. So I might wait to see how the investigation goes there before jumping into shape its direction. um that said, I'm kind of I think a similar boat as Dominic, and I still have this black eye, so I've still got that whole adrenaline junkie thing going on. I think I want to, investigate the slugger, and maybe I've caught word that Dominic um is headed to the Shortage Slugger himself. Could I go to this remember there was like that temple shriney thing? Oh, I can't go in
You
there
can't
though.
go
I'm
in.
a
Yeah.
lady.
Yeah.
Oh
Unless Ms.
no.
Belacqua does a ritual to help you or something.
Oh. Miss Belacqua, can you do a ritual to help me? Um
I can't be the metaphysical solution to all of your problems, Lady Florence.
um I suppose that's true. And I look at Jakob, look at the wall. um Oh, should I get the Demon of Kilburn Abbey thing started? Or do we want to like work at wrapping up Limehouse Lurker? I think that's the big question here. Do other people have
I mean,
Can I
it's a
see what
lot.
Jakob
It's a
wants to
lot.
do and follow there?
All right, Jakob, what are you planning on doing today?
Yeah, I feel like trying to wrap up something would be wise. Dom, is there any point in me coming along with you to Shoreditch Slugger or not?
Do you need to be mocked or berated today?
I suppose I should check my day questions or whatever those are called.
I mean, there are also your help would always be handy, but you know, two birds, one stone.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Lady Florence and I take on Limehouse Lurker. Try and find some more about, if you're willing. I could try and find out some more about the vampire thing.
Yeah, maybe we'll follow in. And I think maybe I am sort of like following Jakob here because I'm sort of interested in how he is acclimating into Hargrave House and that type of thing. It's been a
Nice.
while since we have checked in on each other.
Well, what leads are you going to
case.
follow up on with the Limehouse
Yeah.
Lurker? Because I mean, there's still theoretically maybe there's probably a lot more to see at the school. You got kind of distracted from the school by the by the evil intentions of the headmaster who sent his little gang of kids after you, Jakob. But you didn't really get a chance to investigate the school too much. So that's probably available as something to be looked into, or the workhouse, really, not school. But of course, there's always maybe. Well, I don't know. The opium den's has been pretty well looked into. Did anybody look at the bodies in the opium den? Okay, no one's looked at the bodies.
No, didn't she dump him? I thought she said she dumped him into the river.
Oh yeah, maybe she did. Yeah, maybe you guys took too long. Yeah.
Was there more with the dog and whistle, or is that related to?
Dominic did some investigating there at the Dog and Whistle. You can always go back. I mean,
because we don't really know. We don't know where it was turned, but there was like a tentative idea that Julius was the one who turned it and just forgot.
That seems to be kind of the going theory. Yeah. You can look for Julius's lair too. That was something that came up last time, but nobody ended up doing. It's like trying to find out where he is because he is still around, presumably. No one saw him die. He just got dropped into a hole.
I mean, it could make sense if you're talking about this gang of school kids that like gangs up on you and beats you up, that we would double up and sort of go there with twice the 8 old buddies.
Yeah, they wouldn't punch me with a woman around, would they?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you might also confront the headmaster who clearly,
Ooh.
deceived you, Jakob. Okay, so that sounds fun. All right, so the two of you are going there. Ms. Belacqua is going to be doing research at the house vis-a-vis Roger the Reaver. Mr. Constantine is heading over to the bar, the Crown and Anchor, I believe is what it's called, looking for the slugger. You can go into the temple, as we well know, Mr. Constantine. So why don't we pick up with, let's pick up with that, Mr. Constantine. So what is your approach here?
I feel like it's probably early in the day, so the bar might not be hopping yet, and going to try and get into where the slugger is calling home.
Yeah, I think maybe you could have learned that he lives in the flat above the bar. I think that sounds good.
I think Dom will be super he'll do his best to look like he belongs as he goes up the stairs, and then just kind of listen at the door for a bit to see if anyone's inside before trying to get in.
Yeah, I like that. Let's do, actually, I think it's going to be the day move, just to kind of gain access to the space. What are you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve here?
I'll get spotted and possibly have to do something much riskier to get in.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Go ahead and roll with composure. And taking a look at your conditions, I don't know if anything applies, but no, I don't think so.
That's 10.
10. Great. You don't hear anything. You're able to get inside the stairwell, no trouble whatsoever. You might pass like one sort of like street person, but they don't pay any attention to you, especially if you do that kind of like I belong here, kind of like striding up the stairs. And the door where his little flat is, you don't hear anything. How do you get inside?
I feel like some light lock picking is a handy skill for a monster hunter to have, but if need be, I have the sculptor's ice pick. Maybe that could be used to jimmy the lock.
I think you can do that with no trouble. Yeah.
Then he'll just try and put his back to the hall and then break his way in and close the door behind him.
Yeah, good. You're in. We'll come back to this. Jakob and Lady Florence, do you want the scene on the way to Limehouse, especially maybe for the purpose of triggering the vulnerable move?
Yeah, and I've also got a question maybe about our path to Limehouse. Did we ever patch up the hole in the kitchen that went into the sewers that I made?
I don't know.
Where Julius sunk through?
I have no idea.
Questioning whether we should
track Julius that way.
Yeah, like go in there and see, like, did Julius like leave an obvious path, and does it coincidentally lead towards Limehouse or something? I don't know.
It's an interesting avenue of exploration. I think you should do it.
Well, Lady Florence, I've noticed that repairs have not been made to the kitchen yet, and I still feel terrible about that. And I'm, we're gazing into the hole as we talk about this, sipping tea, perhaps.
Oh, don't worry about it too much. It's just a matter of moving some funds around. We have to make sure that the auditors don't catch on to what's going on there. But I guess it raises a bigger question. How are you acclimating to the house at large?
It feels like a second home or a third home. I don't know. It feels comfortable. you know, Dom has a personality, but I'm accustomed to it, I think now. Um, and I did feel like in the moment that creating this egress for Julius was the right move. I know I invited him in. And then there's Christian as well. So I feel like I've kind of brought my own small entourage into Hargrave House. So I feel rather welcome.
It must feel very different from what you came from. Do you feel like you're opening up at all and able to show a little bit more of who you really are deep inside?
Well, I feel a little more in control of when my joints divide. But I'm not really even sure who I am. Like you know, I know I was raised Welsh. I adore Jan Pedrogach, but sometimes I feel a little like a fish out of water.
Hmm.
This feels like the vulnerable mood triggered, especially if we interpret letters from home to be discussion about home with Jakob.
Okay.
I think, Jakob, if you want to clear homesick or London is very different than Wales, I think you can probably do that. Probably homesick maybe makes the most sense. Lady Florence, I don't know if you were doing anything with your eye during all that, but
I don't think so. Yeah.
Put a steak on it. Do we have a raw steak?
I actually like that condition right now.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sure there's a point where I'll want to get rid of it, but for now.
Jakob, you get the bonus. Do you want to stumble on a clue here in the kitchen, or in the hole in the kitchen, or do you want to invite Lady Florence to ask you a question about the past? Not that you need this mechanical trigger, because you can talk about your past whenever you want. But
True. Yeah. Let's stumble on a clue because we're on a quest for clues here.
Think of your clue, and we'll come back to this scene. Miss Belacqua, where were you headed? Oh no, you're searching in the house. That's right. Well, tell us about the victim who was found in Hargrave House, which maybe this is why it led to Roger's capture. Who were they and what was their deal?
That's kind of how I'm thinking of it. Maybe Wilhelmina Proust was her name. She had come to Hargrave House to ask them to investigate the disappearance of her father, just a minor politician, but it was under some unusual circumstances, and she was seeking the specialty. And she was found in the parlor, and it stumbled upon by some other explorers just coming, oh, we didn't expect to see you here. She was posed as if she was drinking tea, completely dead, perhaps for even a day or two, as they do not often take tea in that room, which led to the hunters kind of raiding the whole house to turn up clues of how is this possible, what happened, and kind of led to a lot of Roger's notes on detailed descriptions on how he loves to kill people.
I think you can tell me the clue in a bit, but I think Christian comes into the parlor while you're there just searching or doing what you're doing. And he says, oh, I'm sorry, Miss Belacqua, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Just shuffling through some papers and considering the state of affairs. No, I wasn't really paying attention. Did you need something?
Well, yes, I was hoping you might be able to give me some advice.
Is this supernatural advice? Should I get my cards?
Oh, well, it's about Mr. Walsh. Well, I'm going to be taking a trip to the country to see my family soon. And I was hoping that Mr. Walsh might come with me, as a friend. And, well, I just feel, I don't know if he'd be willing to do it, but also I feel a little I don't know if I. Oh, listen to me. I feel like I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Darling, sit down. You're obviously been worrying on
He does
this
sit.
for quite some time.
He says, Ms. Belacqua, I want to express, well, my love for Mr. Walsh, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know what sort of token of affection I should give him.
In truth,
You seem like
I
a very worldly woman.
I will choose to take that as an affectionate compliment, young man.
As it was intended.
Hmm. I feel like I have not known Mr. Walsh very long, but in truth, he has an earnest and kind and innocent countenance. I think perhaps the straightforward approach is best. Leave no room for misinterpretations or colorful words that might be misdrued.
I have some concerns about Mr. Walsh, Ms. Belacqua. I don't know if you've understand fully what happened when that Julius fellow attacked me. Mr. Walsh some sort of power emanated from him. It was explosive and, well, I believe...
I've seen the hole in the kitchen.
Yes, yes. I I worry that if I say the wrong thing, or if this doesn't go the way I want it to go, that he might inadvertently unleash his power upon me.
I really don't think that there is any need to fear. He is a sweet man and eager to please, and I think he would love a trip to the country. Perhaps maybe once you're out in the open, fresh air, that is the moment to express the deeper feelings. But an invitation among friends, get him out of the city for a bit. Could I ask a favor in return?
Of course.
Well, you see, Mr. Walsh intercepted a gift that was intended for me, and I'm afraid that I haven't been very direct with him. There is a ring he wears under his gloves, and it does not belong to him and could cause him great harm and trouble. You know the dark work he is, well, we all investigate. For his own safety and my peace of mind, could you, next opportunity, try and procure it for me?
He looks as if he's sitting with this a little bit, and he says, yes, if it will keep him safe, I'll do it.
It is my only wish for him not to come to harm, and I knew that I could find a helpful ally in yourself.
Good. We'll go ahead and take a little break here. So we'll come back in 5-10 minutes. Okay, we're back. Mr. Constantine, the slugger's apartment is fairly nondescript. Let's paint the scene, everyone. What evidence is there that the slugger doesn't sleep?
The bed is as immaculately made by the pub staff, obviously, and there is a fine layer of dust on the pillow that hasn't been disturbed.
Just a quick question. Have we established that the slugger is literate or not?
No.
There is just an almost human-sized stack of books adjacent to just piles of melted wax and candles and oil lamps. It's clear that this person is staying up the whole night reading every night.
Um, there's no curtains on the windows, but there's like lamp lights in front of every, like just positioned in front of every window. Like you would curtain these if you slept.
I'm imagining some sort of shadow boxing routine in which the slugger is just pacing back and forth in his room, and you can actually see at this point the very heavy scratched floor going back and forth, working on footwork and such, and it's scuffed to the degree that somebody staying here for a week should not have been able to do.
Mr. Constantine, you can take this information that the slugger doesn't sleep as a clue and leave. Or you can keep searching.
Do I get that as a clue if I keep searching, or?
You do. It's a clue
I-
regardless, but the question is, do you leave or do you keep going?
I'm going to keep going.
So how do you begin your investigation?
So if there is some key to the slugger's weakness, it's either going to be something that he keeps very safe or very far away. So I'm going to be looking for, other than evidence of sleep, something that a normal person would have that he doesn't.
Make the move with reason.
My best stat. There we go. 8.
I'll give you your clue in a bit, but the complication is you turn a corner and the slugger's just right there. Like a wall fixture or a bookcase just standing there, dead quiet, looking at you. If you're okay with that, then we'll let it go. Otherwise, you can mark the Janus mask.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Lady Florence and Jakob. Okay. So what was the clue, Jakob?
Yeah. Let me explain how we find it also before I reveal the clue here. I say, Lady Florence, you've asked about how I've fit in at Hargrave House, and there's a thing I need to ask you about if you'd come with me. And I bring forth my little handmade crystal radio receiver, and there's this sort of distorted voice like that, like breaking up noise, and a voice says, "Only the best children find safety in the sewers." And I said, "Are you? Can you hear this also, or is it just me?"
And I kind of just like nod as if I'm not sure how to respond to it. And I'm just like, I hear it, but like I don't know how much I need to let on that I understand what's going on to Jakob.
So this radio has no power source. It seems to speak when I'm near, but to my knowledge, doesn't operate otherwise. Does stuff like this happen at Hargrave House on a regular basis? Like,
Very interesting, Jakob. There are all sorts of many hunters have been in Hargrave House. We don't even know the full depths of many of their abilities, and there may be some lingering presences, energies. Who knows, really? That could explain this, but it could be something else entirely.
is Hargrave House built over some more ancient structure?
Yes. It is. The way we know this is because the kitchen predates Hargrave House. It was an old structure that Hargrave House was built around. And so logic dictates that there might be something beneath the kitchen, especially, that is older.
Does it seem prudent that we, I don't know, in plugging up this hole, find out what's beneath first?
I suppose that makes sense.
So what was the clue, Jakob?
The voice heard saying only the best children find safety in the sewers.
Oh, good. Yeah, you can mark that down. That's good. So are you all going down into the subterranean space, or?
I'm up for
Sounds
it.
fun to
Hoping
me.
to either find a trail of Julius and
Yeah.
or perhaps a path to the orphanage.
You're under the auspices of the night move while you're down there. So just know that.
Oh.
Meanwhile, Ms. Belacqua, while you're chatting with Christian, you still have to come up with a clue, which you can do at some point. You hear ring, 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 ring. Christian says, sounds like someone's at the door.
Yes, I believe that is a traditional sound that is made when
How come there are
someone's
no
at-
servants?
Well, why don't you get the door? Forgive me. We just prefer a less casualties.
He will go to get the door. Do you follow him, or do you just let him go get the door?
I will follow along behind him, curious.
He opens the door, and there is a monk standing at the door. He is young, slender, young. The description says he has a laugh like summer rain, smells faintly of rosemary and lavender. He's beautiful. And Christian opens the door and is like, oh, hello. And this young monk is like, hello. And there's just a moment where they're not saying anything, Ms. Belacqua. They're just staring into each other's eyes. The monk says, oh, excuse me. My name is Brother Elijah. I am a monk from Kilburn Abbey. I'm not supposed to be here right now. We don't frequently leave the Abbey, but I have something very, very important to tell the residents of this home.
We're an institution. Please come in.
Christian says, yes, please come in. And he comes in. And Christian, I think, says something really stupid, like, can I take your robe? And
Christian, this is a Hargrave House business. Perhaps our guest would be more comfortable talking to a professional.
And Christian nods and heads up the stairs, but he's like looking back the whole time, like as he goes up the stairs. This young monk, who introduces himself as Brother Elijah, says, are you a resident of this place, Ms.
Belacqua,
Ms.
Victoria
Belacqua?
Belacqua. Brother Elijah, you have such a your countenance is so drawn. I'm shocked to see you here. How can we help you?
Well, Ms. Belacqua, there has been something, well, something really terrible has happened. I don't know if you've been in contact with Dr. Gastrell. I'm led to believe you have been, but we have been experiencing some rather, well, unsavory matters at Kilburn Abbey. There is an entity of some sort, Ms. Belacqua, an entity that has wormed its way into the hearts and minds of my brothers at the Abbey. And this entity, I believe it wants something here at Hargrave House. And indeed, I believe using the other monks as its pawns, it intends to launch, well, an assault on Hargrave House tonight.
Victoria will sit next to him, perilously close for Victorian standards, and say, "Brother, Elijah, it's important you understand that we are prepared for these sorts of things, but you say that this entity is in fact puppeting your brothers?"
Well, it's more subtle than that, Ms. Belacqua. I believe that our abbot is currently being manipulated by the entity. Brother Abbot, his preaching and teaching as of late, ever since we opened up that hole in the wall, it has been of a most dark nature. His own countenance has a certain evil mien about it. I believe that this entity is going to force all of us through our abbot to do something terrible to Hargrave House. It wants something from here, Ms. Belacqua.
And at this, she will put her hand on top of his and say, "I only mean to reassure you, and I do not wish to frighten you, but I have extensive personal experience with things that might be considered dark and unsavory by others."
He crosses himself and then says, "Yes, well, I think that living in a place like this, no offense, would certainly make one have dark interests and perhaps persuade you to do unsavory inquiries. I am just here to warn you. Something is going to happen here tonight."
And she'll scandalously touch his cheek and say, "I just brush against it. I appreciate the urgency you felt in coming here to warn us."
He's getting ready to leave, and he says, that young fellow who opened the door, does he live here?"
"We shall see."
And he leaves. Mr. Constantine, the slugger is standing there. I owe you a clue. I'll give you that now. You see now, perhaps for the first time, that the tattoos on his chest are not just a curious pattern, but they are in fact some sort of map. That's your clue. The slugger says, "What are you doing in my flat, Dominic?"
Dominic will pretend like he wasn't startled and smile and step a little closer and say, "What do you think I was doing in your flat?"
"It looks like you were snooping around."
Funny thing.
My other friend, the Admiral, he seems to think that I should keep my distance from you and from your colleagues.
And what do you think? And Dom will take a step closer.
Make the day move with presence. What are you afraid is going to happen if you flub this little moment here?
this will be the last chance I have to get close to the slugger in a non-combat type of way.
I like it. Go ahead and roll.
6.
Admiral Flagg says that you and your colleagues at Hargrave House have been poking around because you intend to take away my power, because you intend to hurt me, because you think that I am some sort of threat to London. I don't like to think about the idea that I brought you into the most intimate space of mine, that I laid you down in a bed of sacred flowers and let you taste my power, and that you partook because you have ulterior motives. And I think he clocks you. Just a wallop across the jaw. And I will give you, I think he busted your jaw.
As good of a twist as that is, I shipped this too hard to not put on a mask.
Very good, very good. They'll love that in Discord. Which, by the way, if I don't know if the four of you are aware, but like, there's a lot of fans in the Discord. There are a few fans in the Discord for Dom and the Slugger right now. It's a thing.
I mean, we all ship it.
Is it even shipping it at this point? I feel like we've gone way beyond that. Like, I think
He still doesn't know the slugger's name.
That's a good point. Yeah. Instead, I'm going to give you Marked by the Slugger, because he's going to buy your story, but he's not sure about you as much as he was before. But how do you know that you've got him kind of? Well, actually, I per the move, I have to tell you how you'd be vulnerable, and I'll say how you're going to be vulnerable is he's going to not trust you. If you're okay with that, then you can proceed with this line of defense.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So how do you you step up to him, and then what?
He'll just kind of look up into the slugger's face and say, come on, all the best things hurt a little bit.
I think we'll just cut the scene there. Down in whatever this space is beneath the kitchen. What kind of space is it? That's a good question. It might just be the sewers, but it might be something different too. It might be the basement of whatever this kitchen used to be attached to. Maybe there used to be like an old castle here, and this is like the dungeon. Maybe there's a reason why this spot was chosen for Hargrave House, because of something that used to be there. These are all very interesting questions. You are down there. I don't know how much evidence will be left of Julius's passing necessarily, but I will ask the two of you, what do you do?
I'm gonna bring a lantern down with us so we have some source of light, and sort of poke around for egress. I'm assuming that Julius didn't climb back up into Hargrave House and must have exited another path. So
Indeed.
Look for whatever. Holes in walls, trapdoors, loose bricks.
I love it.
Something underneath some really old moldy straw.
It's the night move. No, it's probably the information move, actually. but I think I want the night move because for you, Jakob, especially because this is really out of your element, right? So what are you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve right now?
Ooh. I realize that I'm so out of my element that I climb back up, pack my bags, and return to Wales.
It's worse than that. You try to climb back up in order to pack your bags and leave Wales, but you are caught by something that lives down here. Go ahead and roll with composure. And taking a look at your conditions, I want you at disadvantage because London is very different from Wales.
Oh dear. Oh man, you're dirty disadvantage. That is a 6.
Lady Florence, you're aware of it first. This space, you go down, you drop down, and then you find some stairs and go down even further, presumably into the sewers, but it's actually unclear. You're in it almost has the look of like an underground cathedral or some kind of ancient burial space or something. It's masoned, it has stonework, but it's old. And there's lots of strange sort of crumbling statuary and marks. And you're in a space that has a very vaulted ceiling. And you're aware of people crawling down the walls from the shadowy ceiling above. What do you do, Lady Florence?
I would like to be so bold as to talk to them, and to essentially say, oh, hello there. I do see you. I know that you are being sneaky. It's not quite working as well as you may presume it is. Why don't we just have a little conversation? I'm not here to stir the pot, create any trouble, really.
You hear a voice in the darkness, not coming from these creatures. Indeed, sort of bouncing around the space. The voice says, Lady Florence, I think you're going to find that these particular creatures, well, let's just say they lack certain social graces. Indeed, they don't even possess the faculty for speech. They only know one thing, Lady Florence, and that is the taste of the flesh of the living.
Is that you, Flag?
It is not Flag. It is, in fact, it's a little hard to tell because it's echoey down there, but it sounds like Julius.
Oh.
You can imagine how surprised I was when I was dropped down here into a new little kingdom. Sometimes fate has ways of, well, what's the saying? Lemons, lemonade, all that. These creatures are crawling down, and they have rows of razor-sharp teeth. They are able to anchor into the walls with talon-like hands and feet. And they're wearing just rags. Julia says, from their tattoos, I think they are perhaps Roman. It's unclear. But they cannot be reasoned with, this I assure you. I only get along with them as well as I do because we're all dead. They are now down, and they are closing in. What are the two of you doing?
I'm calling out for Jakob first, as I am figuring out what to do.
Do we see Julius or just hear his voice?
No, you just hear him.
Okay.
I have to say, he's saying this as the creatures are getting closer and closer to you. I have to say, when I lived in Hargrave House, I do recall in the archives reading about some ancient members of our little order that, well, they sealed away a terrible evil, and they built atop that terrible evil that they'd sealed away in order to keep it sealed away. There's something of a rich irony in all of this, I feel like, but I'm not that really conversant in literature, so I couldn't say precisely what. Nevertheless, there's a part of me that really wants to know what would happen if I were to shepherd this hungry little band out into the streets of the city. I'm sorry, what are the two of you doing right about now? I feel like you're going to be the first victims here if you're not careful.
Julius,
Yes.
God damn it, what's your game here?
I am mostly amused in seeing how quickly these creatures can fully debone a human body.
And you will offer us no aid in what's about to happen here.
Absolutely none.
Can I ask why?
Well, it probably has something to do with the fact that Jakob plunged me down into a hole.
Oh, an accident, I'm sure. Come on now, Julius.
The creatures are
This
within
is
yards of you
madness.
at this point. There are about a dozen of them.
Wow. I'm gonna massage my wrist where Julius had bitten it and say, Julius, do you really want to share what I have to offer with all of these?
Oh, Mr. Walsh, I don't like to share anything. That's why I intend to stake my claim, so to speak, on young Christian once this is over. The creatures leap.
All right.
We'll come back to this. Miss Belacqua, you've been given some very interesting information about the monks of Kilburn Abbey perhaps doing something to Hargrave House later. You have no awareness of what's going on beneath the house. But what was your clue about Roger the Reaver and his victims, where Anton Farrow might be?
So Victoria was getting awfully handsy with this monk, and in his like brusque fleeing of the parlor and therefore my presence, he scatters some papers, apologizes briskly, but as I'm collecting them off the floor, these notes from Roger's quarters, I noticed that he's got very detailed and drafted architectural plans for both Hargrave House and many other of the locations where people were murdered.
Oh, nice. Good. I like that. That's a good clue. You can write that down. Well, so what do you do once you're done with your research and having got this information? And Christian might at some point come back out and say, oh, did Brother Elijah leave?
Yes, the beautiful man is gone, Christian. I could use a little bit of a break, dear. Can you entertain yourself for a while?
Oh, yes, yes. I wonder where Lady Florence and Jakob went.
Yes, that's lovely. Why don't you go look for them?
So then what, Ms. Belacqua?
I'm going to sink into my cards.
Yeah, very good. I
Mhm.
like it. Go ahead and roll.
Oh, that's excellent. That's a 13.
Oh, very interesting. Is there a 12 plus on that, or is it just 10?
To unmark the cosmic passage, I think, but maybe not on
Oh.
this one.
Oh, yeah, I think that's only the ritual. A thinning of the veil. No, on a 10 plus, you find a clue as well. So that's good.
Delightful.
Can be for any mystery you want, I suppose. But if you're asking about the Demon of Kilburn Abbey. It's probably for that. So what do you ask? What in particular are you like consulting about?
I definitely need to know what is going to happen next in order to prepare for this evening. Having
I shall
gotten
tell
this
you.
warning. Mhm.
You do pull cards, perhaps the Nine of Swords, perhaps the Tower, that indicate strife and assault on Hargrave House, a literal assault. And perhaps you also pull the Hierophant, indicating priests, just to confirm that little bit. Maybe even the devil, even though it's not what it means in tarot, but that's okay. And you also get to ask, why is it about to happen? That's easy enough. You pull out the card of the world, which has the shape of a ring prominently on it. They want the ring.
That confirms Victoria's worst fears, and having so little control that she was drawn so fiercely to this monk in the first place, and frustrated that there is literally nothing that she can do to solve this problem. She is going to go upstairs and just lie down for a bit.
Very good, very good. Mr. Constantine, perhaps you're back out on the street now. Anything you want to do at the end here?
Well, if I'm out on the street, maybe on my way back to Hargrave House, I can drop by a murder site.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good. I like that. Think of the name of the victim and your clue. Meanwhile, ghouls are attacking Mr. Walsh and Lady Florence. Perhaps Roman ghouls, we don't know. I don't know, but I think Julius sees Romans everywhere he goes. Mrs. Home, say. And Julius is clearly enjoying the hell out of this, even though you can't see him. They're attacking. I'm going to need night moves from you both to survive this, or some other move that is applicable. Jakob, this might be a time to unleash some of your power.
Yeah. I've got two ideas. One is to try to use one of the Vault of the Four Limbs and see if that does it. The other thing would involve, if I check another mask, I can access Vault of the Martian Royals, which gives some solutions. But I need to like essentially fail in a die roll before that, right?
I'd probably go with the Vault of the Four Limbs.
All right.
So you could use the Shield of Korathor to protect you and Lady Florence, or you could use the hammer to fight them.
Well, let me ask. The shield says it blocks a single doorway or passage. Is that pretty literal? Like it has to be blocking a portal?
Well, I think if the two of you can get to a portal, yeah, you can probably like keep them protected.
So my thought is to make a portal with the hammer of Gontos, punch a hole through a wall.
I like that. I think it's pretty good.
And then hopefully go through and maybe shield behind.
Lady Florence, I think you're going to have to hold them off for a little bit while Jakob does that. So what do you do?
So I think Lady Florence is definitely out of her element when it comes to taking these things head on, but I am sure that she has been mobbed by angry groups quite often in her career of exploration, and has learned how to kind of navigate and avoid and sort of I'm kind of imagining. Oh, I almost want to credit it to like the Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes of just kind of like calmly like walking, but like as they are sort of like leaping and that type of thing, just kind of like very quickly like leaning back. And I'm just sort of like scanning the room, and maybe this ties in the portal thing, trying to get a bead on where Julius might be. And maybe I'm even, as these things are snarling and jumping, I'm like, Julius, where are you now?
Yeah, it could be that you spot the portal and then Jakob just defends it, right? With the with the shield. I like this as a night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I mean, quite obviously, like this is a huge risk, and I'm just going to get overwhelmed, and these things are going to be on top of me, and then who knows then?
Yeah, it's worse than that. You were going to get torn to shreds. And I think Julius will deliver your whatever's left of you to Admiral Flagg.
Oh,
for a checkmate.
Julius.
So let's have a vitality roll. If you have an item that would help
Oh,
you, this would be a
thanks,
great time
sir.
to use it.
That is a 10.
Nice. Describe how you defend you and Jakob so that you can get to a doorway that Jakob can then put the shield up over.
Yeah, I mean, just to add like more color to what I was describing there, I think I start like as I gain more confidence that this is working, and maybe even get that sense, that lock-in of where, okay, like this is where Julius is, this is where the portal is. I've got an understanding of the geography, I guess, of this place. I start like taunting the ghouls as well. And I don't know, like old Roman insults or like making fun of, and I don't even know if it like registers with them, but kind of saying like, oh, you stabbed Caesar in the back, but you won't get me. Things like that. Yeah.
I like that this is somehow literally the Senate, and this is like Brutus and the Senate down here. That'd be pretty wild. I love it. Good. Okay, great. Fantastic. And then Jakob, you are going to use the shield of, what's it called?
Clorithor.
Shield of Corithor, which unerringly blocks a single doorway or passage. How does the building or location change while the shield is defending it? Well, first of all, what does the shield even look like? What does the scene look like?
Yeah, as we kind of push our way through this passage or this portal, I am taking my cane and trying to whack a rock loose, thinking mundane at first because I haven't used the shield yet. Trying to whack a rock loose, and this orange ash descends from above, falling down. It doesn't match the color of the local rocks. And then in response, green moss and lichen grows up at an extreme rate, and it becomes this doorway that's like half orange and half green, sort of organic materials melding together.
Lady Florence, what are you thinking? You're seeing all this.
Haven't seen anything like that before. That's what I'm thinking.
Indeed,
Or
indeed.
have I?
I don't know. In any case, the creatures spill up against it and they can't pass. You are probably no closer to reaching Hargrave House again, at least from here, but you are safe from the ghouls.
Only one way to go, forward.
Indeed. Indeed, indeed. I think this will conclude the day phase. Let's pop over to the dusk. Mike, I know we're losing you in a bit, but maybe if you have something to contribute before we get to the night phase, you can do that. Well, the REC, the Royal Explorers Club, maybe one of those effects would be helpful, especially against a siege.
That is what I was thinking.
Jason, I still owe a clue from my very successful ritual. Would
yeah.
you I don't really know how to add to the Kilburn Abbey just yet because
I give you the clue in this case. I don't think you create it.
Understood.
Yeah.
Then never mind.
Yeah, I'll give you one real quick. Let's see. I think it has to be something you could have discovered in your cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's easy. One of the cards that you've never seen in your deck before is an upside down cross. And even if you try to turn it the right way, it's still an upside down cross.
Mm-hmm. So many blockages.
Indeed. So someone can note that clue down. And yeah, so are you going to call on any help from the Royal Explorers Club?
I think so. And I think the way that I would frame it, I'm going to call on General Herod Farzblet Mog to fortify Hargrave House. I think that it might be incidental because I wouldn't have known about like Victoria's exchange, but I think maybe before Jakob and I went down, I had passed on a note to a messenger to get to General Herod, essentially saying, like, I don't know what we're going to find down there, but I know
It could be bad. Yeah.
the general
Yeah.
history of this place,
Yeah.
and we may be unsettling something. And so I'm going to need you here in case we're not back by night.
This could be a good expenditure too, because General Farsblutmog might be defending the house from monks from the outside and ghouls from below. So
That's what I was thinking, is that incidentally, like,
Yeah.
he's
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. That's great. I love it. So yeah, he'll show up with a well-armed crew ready to defend Hargrave House. And that sounds great to me. Let's keep going here. Let's talk about Hargrave House itself. Well, I think we have to do the conservatory. A former hunter in residence is indeed the legendary killer known as Roger the Reaver. The conservatory was his favorite room in Hargrave House. Looking around, how do we know that?
There are a shocking number of bleeding heart amaranth plants, and he had the tradition of planting one with each victim.
Fantastic.
I mean, after he murdered each victim, if that wasn't clear, not like on their body, but
the hooks on the wall that hold the instruments. You can tell that there's some like viscera that has never been able to be cleaned out from when he propped them, hung them up on those hooks.
Why would anyone live here?
I think the gardening implements are still the same as during his days, and they've been maintained with such obvious love. It's clear that the man was obsessed with his tools.
Finally, I think that there is one large wicker chair with the back against the wall, and all of the plants are arranged in such a way as if there is an audience beholding a person of great power, stature, or otherwise important.
This might be a good time to check in with Dominic as well. Where was who was the victim that whose murder site you visited?
It was Morris Fitzharris, who
Okay.
was a surgeon, one of the famous Victorian surgeons at the operating theaters that were open to the public. And he was found in the operating theater. He had been drowned in chloroform and sliced open as if in demonstration.
Ghoulish. What's the clue?
I think the clue is that Roger had a keen understanding of the human body.
Yeah, I'm looking now. We have a couple clues that haven't made it to the sheet yet. So Roger had a keen understanding of the human body. What was your clue, Miss Belacqua?
He had detailed architectural plans for both Hargrave House and many other locations where the victims were murdered. I wrote it down on paper. That's my bad.
And also there's a clue on Kilburn Abbey. Upside down cross. Okay, great. Fabulous. Okay, great. Let's keep going here. Does anyone want to answer a question right now?
It would be a flat roll my understanding is, for the side.
It would be, yeah.
I would love to not have 4 open threats in addition to monks and ghouls.
Yeah, Hargrave House is feeling it right now. There's a lot of pressure. And 2 of your members trapped under the city presently. So
What if Roger, later on in his murdering escapades, perhaps prompted by Lady Florence, began murdering his victims in the manner of their occupation? And I'm remembering, Pharaoh was the name of the man who came to the door. What was the final victim's name?
Well, Anton Pharaoh is the victim that we're concerned about here. His remains were never found. Yeah.
So perhaps Anton Pharaoh was a mason, and his body has been sealed in a wall somewhere, either in Hargrave House or perhaps elsewhere, like in the family home.
That echoes
and that's
Kilburn
why he's
Abbey
never
really
been
neatly too. Yeah.
and that's why he has not been found.
I like it. Does everybody like this as a theory?
Yeah.
I think that covers I mean, you definitely get like one clue used there. How does the other clue?
The surgeon was murdered as if he was being operated on. So he was murdered in the manner of his
the manner of his occupation. Got it. Oh yeah, okay, I
occupation.
love that. Yeah, that's great. Okay, cool. Flat roll. Go ahead and roll it if nobody disagrees.
Okay, that's a 8.
The opportunity is open. You are now able to resolve the threat by finding Anton Pharaoh's remains so that the pharaohs can give him a proper burial. So anybody who wants to pursue that can certainly do that. So what does everybody want to do tonight? I will say that, Jakob, whatever you do, it cannot leave the subterranean portion of the city. You are stuck underground. Lady Florence, I don't think you're going to be with us, but we can just assume that maybe you and Jakob get split up in the darkness or something.
The classic, split up in the dungeon.
Yeah, Jakob finds himself alone. So Jakob, if there's something you do want to do while you're down there tonight, let me know.
Maybe find some remains.
Oh yeah, that'd be funny if you like found Anton Pharaoh's remains. You didn't even investigate it at all. You just stumbled into it.
Right. Yeah, but I'll think that there's something else.
What are the chances? Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you're down there. We know where you're at. That's the important thing. Mr. Constantine, what's your plan for tonight? You will be aware, Mr. Constantine, of General Farsblet Mogg setting up sentries and guards all over the house when you get back. So,
well, that feels like things at the house are under control then. There's got to be a bout club going on.
There probably is a bout club going on. Yeah.
Not bruised and battered enough.
Indeed. Ms. Belacqua, what about you?
I am tempted to leave the house as well. Having been trapped here all day with inferior, and now knowing that monks are going to show up with the supernatural bent, maybe I would go to the abbey
while they're empty, while it's emptied
while
out.
they're otherwise
That's
occupied.
Good. Yeah, I like that. That's a good plan. Fantastic. Okay, well, sounds like we have a plan as far as tonight goes, or at least in terms of what you want to do. Does anyone have any open Janus Max prompts?
I do.
If you're ready to do it, you can. Otherwise, you can wait.
So I'm to narrative flashback to Dom's early years where he tried to live a normal life, but a family member put him in his place. And I think it's pretty straightforward. He had years of training in combat and in hunting and had already been given a reason to have doubts about the let's say ethics of the career his family was forcing him into. But it doesn't feel to Dom like there are many outlets for his skills. So I think he started attending just a normal London boxing gym. And he was making friends and even getting into a couple tournaments. And one night during one of his matches, he happened to glance into the crowd, and there was his mother. And as soon as he was done, she was there, one hand around the back of his neck, and whispering that his skills aren't to be wasted on plebeian things such as this. And he has a more meaningful future ahead of him. And she all but dragged him home.
Fantastic. Before we introduce the unseen, I do have to ask a very, very pertinent question here. Jakob, do you have the ring on you presently, or is it back at Hargrave House?
Ooh.
It's a very important question. Your answer has a big effect on what happens tonight.
Let's say it's back at Hargrave House.
Very good.
I don't know that I'm wearing it all the time.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Tonight's unseen. It's the second one, the tarot card reading of Ms. Lydia Wainwright. Lydia Wainwright is a young woman of 19, born into a respectable family. Her mother has commanded her to marry Edgar Thornton, the son of a wealthy industrialist, but her heart belongs to Samuel, a poor but very handsome chimney sweep. Lydia has snuck off in the night to the home of a fortune teller, seeking guidance on the matter. Everyone does paint the scene. Prompt 2 will be Ben. Prompt 3 will be Brian. Prompt 4 will be Sarah. We'll take 5, and Mike, we'll see you next week. I'll see everybody else in 5 minutes.
Jason, can you remind me on Echo in the Night, does it have to echo an activity that happens during the night phase, or can it echo something prior from the session
It
that's
can be
already
something
occurred?
prior. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Yeah. Paint the scene. As Lydia enters the home of the fortune teller, what do we see that shows this place has real magic?
Walking through the streets, the night is nice but overcast and cloudy. When Lydia is in the front room of the fortune teller's establishment, there's of course the big glass window facing the street, and in every reflection looking through that window, the sky isn't cloudy, it is clear and dense with bright stars.
You know how you can build a structure around a tree? In this case, once you're inside, you realize that one of the walls is a massive tree trunk that has curved and grown the ceiling and the remaining walls around it. That this is a living building that she's in, even though from the outside it appears like a normal Victorian house.
And echoing the night sky, all of the light, points of light in here are not from candles or lanterns. They seem to be, well, it's actually very unclear where that light is coming from.
Dominic, as you're getting ready to go out to Bout Club, General Herod Farsblet Mogg has been making his preparations. He has men on the roof. He has men at all the entrances, and even men standing out in the square. And General Herod says to, I suppose you're there, and Ms. Belacqua, you're there before you go to the... No, I think you're already on the way to the Abbey, Ms. Belacqua. It's just you, Dominic. General Herod, who is a sort of squat, stout, bushy-browed man. He says, "Have no fear, Mr. Constantine. Lady Florence made it very clear that Hargrave House was going to be the victim of some sort of danger, or she worried about as such. Indeed, I wonder where she is even at this very moment. Perhaps, hopefully, she did not succumb to that danger. Nevertheless, I always answer the call of other members of the Royal Explorers Club. My men and I, we will do our very best to defend your walls, sir. What sort of work is it that you actually get up to here? It's sort of a strange place to call home, I'd say.
Yes, it gets stranger by the day. I think you could.
Oh, go ahead.
Could consider us consultants of a sort.
Yes. I think this is probably happening like out in the square, this conversation, as his men kind of take up positions. And Admiral Flagg comes over, because he just lives next door. And he says, Herod, what is the meaning of all this? I see that you have some of your best men here, posted on the roofs, and at the entryways, and here in the square. And Herod explains the deal, and he says, I can't believe Lady Florence wouldn't ask me for my help. I have resources as well. I have a few men staying with me even now who'd be more than happy to help take up a defense of our neighbor, Hargrave House. Shall I send some of them over? General Herod says, yes, that's a tremendous idea. Everyone from the Royal Explorers Club pitching in to defend one of its members. Aye, that's the sort of camaraderie you just don't find in our moderning age.
I didn't realize you were a member as well, Admiral.
Yes, of course. That is how Lady Florence and I know each other. Through the Royal Explorers Club. I have even actually explored things, unlike our dear Lady Florence.
And do you also have a mountain named after you?
And he sort of smiles and says, a whole range of them, Mr. Constantine. So I shall send my men over. We'd be more than happy to take up defensive positions inside the house. And Herod
very
says,
good. Just be sure not to make too much of a mess. The lady hates a mess.
Indeed. We cut over to Kilburn Abbey at night.
Victoria doing the exact thing she told Jakob not to do.
Indeed. I think you're able to actually enter the Abbey, no trouble at all. First, you actually maybe have to go through the garden, like the front garden. It's quite lush and verdant. There are the scent of herbs and a statue of the Virgin Mary that weirdly is missing its hands. Let's paint the scene, but it's just for Ms. Belacqua. Which plant grows here that you didn't expect to find? Does its presence make you feel hopeful, or does it fill you with dread?
There is night blooming jasmine climbing all of the trees in the abbey. And while the smell is intoxicating, it gives Victoria unpleasant memories, dredges up old and unpleasant memories from home and her childhood.
Good. Do you go straight into the Abbey, or are you going to poke around in the garden?
I feel like I would want to at least look to see if I could see movement or anything inside. So maybe poking in the gardens, peering in windows.
Yeah, I like that. You can go ahead and take an information move. With, I think because of the state of the place, I'm actually going to say sensitivity. So.
Okay. That is an 8 + 2 is 10.
Fantastic. I'll give you a clue in a bit. But before you have a chance to get too far in the garden, you see Christian running up the way. Ms. Belacqua, Ms. Belacqua, I found you. And we'll come back to that. Jakob. You've been listening to Lady Florence's footsteps behind you as the two of you navigate your way through this subterranean space, whatever it is. But eventually those footsteps become heavier, like they're being made by a bigger person.
Ooh, let me jabber for a second before you describe more.
Sure.
I've got my little lantern and I'm going forward and I'm saying, Lady Florence, this is honestly kind of exhilarating. We don't have sewers like this in Wales. I mean, we have plumbing. Don't take me wrong, but underground tunnels of this scale and magnitude. It's like a city beneath a city. And then I kind of noticed the footstep change.
Mm. And you turn and you see Julius standing there.
Oh, Mr. Julius, I thought we would meet again.
Let's go back to the tarot card reading of Miss Lydia Wainwright. Ben, the first two cards in the spread, in this 5-card spread, are the Lovers and the Ace of Wands, the latter of which is typically associated with passion. Speaking in the voice of the fortune teller, begin telling Lydia what you see in the cards.
The fortune teller will look down at the cards and look up at the girl and say, another one. Love, passion, an important other who weighs heavy on your mind. There is very little unexpected here, girl, but I understand how even the most average of concerns can weigh heavy. And she'll flip another card.
Mr. Constantine, you're heading over to Bout Club. Bout Club tonight is actually on the roof of a building. And I think as you're sort of making your way to that building, as you're making your way to that building, you actually walk past a washerwoman who's scrubbing clean a pile of rough-hewn men's shirts, all flecked with blood. And she gives you a knowing nod as you go up the stairs to reach the entryway to the roof. Brick meets you. He says, always an interesting night when you're here, Mr. Constantine.
I do like to give a good show. What is it this time? A gorilla? Perhaps an elephant?
He says, Nope, just regular, plain old man meat.
Good. It's good to keep it simple every now and again. Little chilly tonight for this, though, isn't it?
Your blood'll be up in no time.
And so will someone else's. It's a slugger here.
Yeah, he's here. He seems a little agitated. He's been asking about you.
And have you been answering?
Well, I think you're probably going to have to answer for yourself. With your fists.
Good. Oh, well, isn't that exciting? It'll be a good show.
Indeed. Ms. Belacqua, Christian, runs into the garden. I found you. Ms. Belacqua, I found you. I've got it. I've got the ring. And he pulls the ring out, and the gate slams closed on its own. What do you do?
Yep. I mean, Sarah saw this coming, and Victoria still doesn't have a good plan. Um, I immediately take the ring from him.
Indeed. As soon as you take the ring, as soon as you have it in your hands, you see a priest or a abbot or an abbey, a monk. You see a monk from the darkness of the sort of little portico entrance into the abbey. You see this monk. He just rushes forward toward you. Jakob. Julius says, I never thought we'd get rid of her, but I'm so glad that we're here, alone, just you and I, Mr. Walsh. What do you think of my new little fiefdom?
Well, it's dark, but my understanding is that suits you. You don't care for the sun that shines in the heavens.
Oh, I
Right.
mean more of the inhabitants of my little fiefdom.
Oh,
They're not too
Yeah.
keen on the sunlight either, but, well, they can do a heck of a lot of damage when the moon is
yeah,
high.
but they seem lacking in social graces.
Yes.
Yeah.
I suspect your colleagues at Hargrave House are finding out right about now just how poor their social graces are.
Oh, did you send them against the house? Why? What has the house done to you?
I think Hargrave House would be a really terrific home base for some things I have planned in London. Unfortunately, that means the rest of you have to be evicted. I suspect that Ms. Belacqua and poor Mr. Constantine and Lady Florence are presently having their viscera evacuated from their body violently.
I
That
noticed
just
you
leaves
leave
you
out.
to deal with. You're not really a resident of the house, of course, but you are certainly its most interesting occupant at the moment.
What makes me so intriguing to you? I'm but a shepherd from Wales turned
I have
solicitor.
twice now seen you do rather miraculous things. I've heard rumors about other miraculous things you have done. And I've tasted your blood. You are not any more one of them than I am one of them.
Well, Hargrave House is such a it takes in stray orphans, if you will, much as I think you may have in the past.
You are not any more a person than I am a person.
Oh, I look down at my hands for a moment and say, I beg to differ. I think I'm more person than I appear. I'm inwardly, I may not believe that. I'm just denying it verbally right now.
Indeed. Back at the tarot card reading of Lydia Wainwright Bryan, the next two cards drawn are the Five of Swords, typically associated with violence, and the Fool, which represents the beginning of a journey. Continue the fortune teller's reading.
All right. Well, darling, as she turns over the five of swords, well, darling, it's clear you can't make everyone happy in this. There's no way to make multiple parties happy, and to meet the needs of the chimney sweep may seem more simple than that of meeting the needs of an industrialist with all the ironworks that they do. And in that moment, some dust seems to fall from the ceiling, kind of rust colored, scattering across the card. She flips over the next card, the Fool, and says, you're young, you are inexperienced, but that doesn't mean you don't have a path in life. And I think that deep in your heart, you'll know the right way to go here. And the wall of this living tree structure kind of quake a little bit, and a bit of green moss filters down onto that card.
A brief interlude. Monks gather on Belgrave Square, or they gather on the square where Hargrave House is in Belgrave. And General Herod comes out and he says, "Abbot, are you supposed to be here tonight? I was led to believe that members of your order don't leave the walls of the abbey." And the abbot, who's a very tall, broad-shouldered man wearing brown monk's robe, he's got like a dozen monks with him. He says, "We are exactly where we are supposed to be, sir. We have to go inside Hargrave House. Something was left there on accident. We've come to retrieve it." And the general, no fool, gives a signal, and his men lower, like kind of raise their weapons. I don't want any trouble here. I certainly don't think, well, I don't want to have to do any violence to a member of the cloth. And at the precise moment across town that Christians says, "I've got the ring," and is holding it up, the monks all turn their heads and they leave the square. Inside the house, Admiral Flagg's men are tossing the place, in particular your rooms. What are they looking for? What do they find? Who knows? And in the kitchen, a nasty, hissing, snarling thing is crawling out of that hole at this moment. But, Mr. Constantine, how's Bout Club going tonight?
I think Dom's trying to do a bit of he's peacocking a little bit. I mean, he just defeated a whole bear last time. This is a victory lap, and he's basking in the attention.
Indeed. The slugger steps up for his match of the night. That one poor kid, Denny Baker, still wants to fight him. but he keeps losing his chance. What do you do when the slugger's calling people out? People don't want to, apart from Denny, nobody wants to fight the slugger anymore.
Dom will clear his throat and step up.
Indeed. Ms. Belacqua, there is a possessed monk running toward you. What do you do?
I suppose I would like to stop him.
How so?
I would like to perform a ritual
Okay,
to hold him in place.
that sounds good to me. That is rites of salt and smoke. I have to make it a quick
Mhm.
one. Go ahead and
Oh.
roll with whatever you roll with normally, but I'm going to put you at
Sensitivity?
disadvantage. Yeah, I'm going to put you at disadvantage because of Most Beloved and having the ring. I think it just makes you a big target.
Yeah, it sure does. Oof.
Well, first of all, what are you afraid is going to happen if you fail? Or no, this is a right of salt and smoke. You don't have to say
Nope.
that.
I'm good. The disadvantage puts me at a 4.
A 4.
Oh, plus sensitivity is a 6, but
Okay, well that's much better. Is there any miss condition on this? There is not. He runs, and I don't think he even has like registered yet that you have the ring right now, because Christian just passed it over to you. And he tackles Christian, sends him flying to the ground. Christian hits the ground hard, and the monk, his eyes like glowing red, he takes out of his robe a cross that has a sharpened point and gets ready to plunge it into Christian's chest. This is the night move to stop this from happening. What are you afraid is going to happen if you don't?
that not only will Christian die, but that somehow the manner of his death is fuel for this demonic possession's fire, so to speak.
It's worse than that. I think in the shock and in the confusion, it gets the ring too. Go ahead and roll with, well, how are you going to try to stop him?
So my ritual was to freeze the monk in place.
Right.
And that did not work. So I need to now figure out the best way forward. I think that the Rabbi Solomon gave me a journal with very detailed instructions on how to handle a demonic possession. So I think that it will be trying to use that to my advantage and trying to cast the spirit out of this monk.
I love it. I think this is going to be, it's just night move with sensitivity. I'm not going to put you at disadvantage, but I do want to know what you're afraid is going to happen if you fail. Oh, we've already talked about that.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I guess I still am scared of the...
Okay. So roll.
Okay, good.
Are you rolling with advantage because you're using an item in your personal quarters? Because that journal is an item in your quarters, right?
It's both an item and a clue. Jason?
I mean, if it's in your personal quarters, you can mark it, certainly.
Okay, I think I will.
Okay.
That's much better. That is a 10.
We'll come back to this. Just think about how you stop the carnage or the presumed carnage. Jakob.
Yep.
Julius is getting closer and closer to you as you're having this conversation.
Yep. And I'm backing up and I'm backing up.
He says, I intend to drain you dry, Mr. Walsh. You should know that. But I'm happy to relay anything in particular to your family, if that would be good for you. I'm happy to let them know that you died nobly, putting up a fight. I'll even let you spare one of them. You can tell me right now which one you would like to not die, and I'll make sure that nothing happens to them.
I think at that my shoulder blades bump into the wall behind me, and I say I really just want to see the daylight again, and kind of raise up my cane to try and keep Julius a little farther away, and that calls forth the javelin of Jajatar.
Oh my goodness, what does the javelin do?
Well, I'm hoping that it skewers him through the chest and pins him to the wall.
Oh yeah, the javelin of Zajatar, which screams through the sky. How does reality shudder when the javelin hits its mark? I like it. I like it. I don't even need a roll. Just tell me how reality shudders as it flies forward.
All right. At that statement that I just want to see the sunlight again, stones start vibrating and separating, almost like they're trying to let daylight through. Sure, it's nighttime here, but on Mars, who knows? Might be sunrise. So the stones are trying to part and squeeze, or sorry, not squeeze, the opposite of that. Whatever. They're trying to make space to allow a gap to let light through. And it echoes all the way up into Hargrave House proper, possibly causing a break in a wall that might be concealing a body that we're looking for.
I wouldn't go that far, but you can describe what. But I like everything up to that point.
And then Jakob's cane kind of gives an odd recoil, almost like a gun might, and this blue bolt just lances forward, and like a glowing beam of ice lances forward and strikes Julius, and hopefully sticks him to the wall.
It does indeed, and he cries out. Let's make our last trip to the tarot card reading. Sarah, the last card drawn is the devil, representing the seduction of the material world and other earthly pleasures. Continue your reading and then tell Lydia definitively what she must do.
Oh, I'm so sorry, my dear. In this reversed position, I can only expect that you could not be happy with this man. That chimney sweep will bring out the very worst in you, and in fact, you yourself will seem possessed with a woman you do not recognize. Under no circumstances should you pursue this love. Go back to your family till you find the next love, then come see me again, my dear.
Dominic, the slugger says, how many times do I have to beat you in the ring, Dom? It's almost like you enjoy it.
Maybe I do.
All right, then. And I think even the people in the room can sense this sort of sexual tension between the two of you, the frisson of energy crackling between you, so to speak. Everyone can even smell the faint smell of honey. If you're going to fight him, it's the night move. You're going to be at disadvantage. But it is your best stat, vitality.
It is. I think I'm going to take an attempt at a different tack.
Okay.
I think as they're starting to circle, Dom's going to say, "You were right. I was snooping."
He says, or sorry, go ahead.
I want to know more. Can't fault me for that, can you?
He says, he kind of does this fist thing and he says, I'm happy to dispense an education to you whenever you want, as hard as you want.
I want what you have. I don't want to take it from you. I want to share it.
You got to beat me first. And you won't, but the night move can maybe make you have a good showing. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail, though, or if you don't have a good showing?
He'll lose interest.
Oh, that's interesting. I think he'll lose interest because he's going to beat you really badly, and you will have shown yourself to be not a worthy anything. It's with vitality at disadvantage.
I don't think I have anything that can help here. No. Nope. All right. 8. Oh, 8.
you are already at 3 conditions. Go ahead and mark the Janus mask. But otherwise, and you can clear marked by Director Gagnon and instead take the condition battered and bruised. I think you take a whooping, but you are putting on a good show. What does it look like? And in fact, since you have to mark the Janus mask anyway, you can just mark it to bump it to a 10 if you want, and then not worry about that condition and have a more clean fight if you want.
That's 3 Janus masks in one day. Yeah, sure.
It was a lot. Yeah.
Let's do it.
But describe
I
your fight.
think
Yeah.
when he starts off, he's not trying to insult the slugger, but he's definitely getting within the slugger's guard and not taking advantage of it. And he'll just keep every now and again saying, think of what we could do and think of who we could beat. And then when he lets the slugger get the first hit, I think he makes it very clear, like he almost turns his head into it. And he wipes the blood from his nose and says, you can do better than that.
Good. An interlude. General Farzblatmog's forces do not get much of a rest because there's commotion inside the house. They hear the rooms being tossed upstairs and are about to investigate when they hear something going on in the kitchen, and that gets their attention, especially because one of the men who was back there trying to surreptitiously sneak a sandwich gets attacked by said creature crawling out of the hole. Indeed, there are more such creatures. General Farzblatmog lets out a rallying cry as his men and women, counterattack, firing off their weapons, shooting the creatures in the clavicle and the head and the chest, sending them back down into the hole. Begone, you demons! Foul spawn of hell! Back to the pit with you! Bang, bang, and creatures hissing and flailing and being plummeted back down into the hole. And they even seal the hole by pushing over the great iron stove in the kitchen in order to seal it up. But in the commotion, Flag's men sneak out the door with their ill-gotten goods. Ms. Belacqua, please describe how you saved Christian.
A combination of now putting on this ring for the first time and understanding just how intensely it pulls to these dark entities, and channeling that along with whatever I can flip through hastily in the journal, incantations kind of cobbled together. I wrench the possessive force out of this monk, and you see it just into the ring.
Good. The monk is catching his breath. He's very young, very good looking. It's not Brother Elijah. And he makes eye contact with Christian. Christian says, "Oh, hello." And the monk says, "Hello, let me help you up." And before you know it, you're not even here anymore, Ms. Belacqua.
Literally, Victoria just sighs and then walks towards the gate.
Indeed. Jakob, you have Julius at your mercy. He's crying out in pain, but very much lucid and pissed. What do you do?
You seem to know the underside of this house quite well. What's my fastest path back to the sunlight?
Up.
Yeah, smarty pants. I push on the spike a little bit, wiggle it some.
He says, ugh. He's like, you don't want to go back up the way you came, that's for sure. That place is currently occupied. I heard gunfire. I don't think you can hear it because of your inadequate, well, I was about to say human ears, but that's not really the case, is it? Keep going up ahead, that tunnel. There's stairs about 100 yards to the right. It goes up to the outer edge of Belgravia. There's no sunlight. It's nighttime, fool. But if you stand there long enough, there will be.
I'll put my hand on the sort of the butt end of this javelin tip that's embedded in his chest and say, I could withdraw this for you. And my fingers divide a little bit, sort of splitting apart as they do. But I think it might be better to leave you here for a while. I think that our mutual friend, Mr. Constantine, might have some, I don't know, some words for you that might change your future behavior, guide your decisions a little bit. And I'm going to leave it in his more capable hands. And then I'll walk away.
Indeed. That concludes the night phase. We'll do the dawn. Let's take like a 5-minute break, though, and we'll come back and do the dawn. So let's do our dawn phase. No rewards will be collected yet, but we can do dawn questions. Everyone's getting the first mark, which is, did the hunters answer a capital Q question? Yes, you did. But we have not resolved a threat yet. So let's go to the next question, which is echoes in the night. Ms. Belacqua, did you get an echo in the night?
I was referring to possession in the last card reading and also dealing with an active possession.
Yeah. I like it. Mr. Constantine, did you get an echo in the night?
Dom was remarking on looking forward to the average bout club when the fortune teller was mocking the girl for having just average concerns.
Yeah. Mr. Walsh, did you get one?
Yeah, the sprinkling of orange
the moss.
dust.
Yeah.
Moss.
Yeah. Bravo. Ms. Belacqua, did you make love to a human in order to forget the darkness?
Nope. Everybody's horny in this episode except for me.
Except for you. Did you make love to a dark entity because it felt good?
There was an implication that I just took to my bed for the afternoon,
but we don't know
which
what you did.
I would have
loved.
Yeah.
You got 2 XP though for the echo, and you're answering a question. Let's go to Mr. Constantine. Did you taste someone or something else's blood, sweat, or other bodily fluids?
That's kind of what I figure happened after the standoff in the apartment.
Right. I'll take it. Yeah. The implication. Did you revel in the thrill of the hunt?
With the fight club, he was really enjoying his time knocking things out.
I'm into that. And I also
bait.
want to talk about your hunt as well. Let's take a moment to review that move since we have a little extra time here today. That move, A Hunter's Life, or no, actually is never over. That's what we care about. So it says, whenever you mark your hunt, ask another player to describe what you find that tells you you're one step closer. We haven't been doing that. Build the remaining sections. You would keep this information. Whenever you mark your hunt, ask another player to describe what you find that tells you you're one step closer. These clues should be very small or subtle. A feeling, a scent, a shadow, or something in the air. Oh yeah, we should keep doing that. We should start doing that because we haven't been. I think for your hunt this time, though, I'm going to give you. I'm actually going to give you an O because of the way you handled the situation in the flat. And because you know you can't beat the slugger, right? There's something almost like very permissive about that. I will note, this is a fun point to point out, that the author of this incursion, Sarah Bowling, on Discord, said that my decision to give you an O on the hunt because of your sexual relationship to the slugger. She thought that was a stroke of genius. And she said a stroke of genius, which also, no, she said a master stroke. That's the exact wording she used, a master stroke. And I have to imagine that was on purpose. So, but yes, an O, I think. But here, I think you have to ask another hunter how you're getting closer to the beast. Like, what do you pick up? But maybe you can just tell us this time, Dom. What is it about your interactions up to this point with the slugger that makes you feel like you're getting closer to whatever the beast is?
I've kind of gone back and forth on what the beast is. Like I know the role that it has played in Dom's family, but I'm torn between going with something a little more esoteric in terms of threat, or just a big kind of run-of-the-mill monster, I guess. But I think with the slugger, especially because Dom has drawn so much on the beast's an aspect of the beast to help when he does go up against the slugger. Usually he didn't this time. I think he sees that kind of capacity for not just violence, but the kind of violence that is almost animalistic. And that I think possibly Dom is potentially curious whether this is the beast or tied to the beast somehow. So yeah, he's after that. And also, if he can beat the slugger, if he can best the slugger, then the beast will hold no threat. So he's getting closer to potentially the source of the beast's power.
I like it very much. Thank you. Jakob, did you demonstrate extreme naivete when faced with the horrors of London?
I suggested we go down into the sewers underneath the Hargrave House.
Yeah, I'll take it. Did you go on and on about your bucolic life back home?
Many times I felt like.
I thought you did. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good. And also, before we leave this little moment, Jakob, I want to tell you, Jakob, that you go back to Hargrave House eventually to discover. Well, first of all, you need to remove the Ring of Solomon from your personal quarters, but also you go back to discover the astrolabe and the rock from Mars are not in your room anymore.
Got it.
Admiral Flag is up to something. Let's keep going. Do we have any?
Picturing Jakob arriving at Hargrave House at dawn, and everybody's like, "You were out late at night? Really?"
Exactly. Yeah. You can go ahead and reassign your keys to the 5 Vaults of Tarthor if you wish, Jakob. And then, do we have any open Janus masks right now?
I've got 2.
Go ahead and give them to us.
So they're both masks of the past to narrate the first time a family member grieved that they could never give me more, and also to where I watched the beast destroy the family member who understood you the most. Feels pretty ripe for combination. So I think we see Dom younger, bloodied, in a back room with a girl little older than he is, and she is hastily barricading the door. She looks like she's been through some stuff tonight, and as she's moving a desk, moving a cabinet, she looks back at Dom and says, I know you're not meant for this. I know you need something more than this. And I wish if we get out of this, you and me, we're going to leave. We're going to get out of here, and we're going to. This isn't worth it, Dom. This is not worth it. And Dom is looking at his two blades. They are bigger to him than they are now, but they still seem really small, especially as the door is blown open behind his sister. And in a very cinematic way, we don't see what Dom is looking at, as there's a brief scuffle followed by the sound of something tearing and a scream and something wet and the sound of breath, and then clomping footsteps leaving.
Is that both?
That's both.
Fabulous. Any other Janus Pesk? Very good. Let's go ahead and go to Stars and Wishes then. You all know the drill. Whoever wants to go first, take it away. I'll go first today, actually. I really love this session. This was a lot of fun. The action level was high. The sort of romance and sexual tension was high. There's a lot of humor as well. All the stuff with Christian and Ms. Belacqua was really funny. The stuff with Jakob and Lady Florence was pretty funny. I just love the idea of Julius has been down there this whole time, like building his little empire of ghouls. The whole thing with General Farsblet Mogg defending the house was really great fun. Like there was just a lot of cool stuff happening today, and it felt like a really packed out session, but it all was really connected in an all tight, coherent way. Like it's all kind of interacting with itself. Different parts are interacting with other parts. The demon and the abbey and the ring and all that business is coming together in a really cool way. And also Admiral Flagg stealing things from the Hargrave House, specific sorts of things from Hargrave House. It's all coming together, and it's all very tantalizing and interesting. And I thought everyone today did a really good job of kind of leaning into the danger, leaning into their characterizations, and and really just kind of giving it like no one was playing safely today, and I really love that.
Hop in. I feel like there was a lot of great snark in a comedic way, sort of like Sarah's line to Christian about "We shall see if you're a resident" became more like a portent in a way.
Also, I have to before you go, just because you mentioned it, we have to comment on all these out of control twinks in London. Like, what are they doing?
I have a star here for the
Twinks of
Order of
London,
Beautiful
yeah.
Monks.
To be fair, Dom has killed all the bears.
Touche, very good.
What some other snark was Dom's do you also have a mountain named after you? And Lady Florence's what was it? I see you being sneaky. kind of bit. Those were all great. What else? I've got a wish. I wanna start hearing some Lady Florence flashbacks to like the last time she was mobbed by an angry group of citizens or militants, whatever. Like,
Fish people, probably.
Right, yeah. When I was in the Amazon, or sorry, not the Amazon, what's the Atlantis? When I was in Atlantis, yeah, stuff like that. Oh, and the Jason, Christian asking, "Can I take your robe?" of a monk. I don't know. Something about that was just like it was just the wrong thing to say. Oh, one last thing. Admiral Flagg's men pitching the iron stove into the hole. Like I can see it as like this is the biggest, heaviest thing we got, but also I want to believe that one of Admiral Flagg's men was like,
Or it's General
"This looks like
Mogg,
the work of
yeah.
fairies. Throw some iron at them."
Yeah, it was General Mogg's men, but yeah.
Sorry.
I have in my notes for Mike. I loved the idea of Lady Florence being just, as long as the murders are gentle and delicate, she's fine with it. It felt very fair.
They sounded like really artistic murders. Like he was like posing them, you know.
Yeah. And I love that she's like, yeah, I knew, but didn't care enough to actually intervene or anything until it got out of hand, I guess. Brian, I love that little scene where you call Julius a smarty pants as you have him pinned to the wall. And just that you were going down under Hargrave House, which is something at least in our between history, we never touched on what Hargrave House was or what it was on top of. So I'm really loving that. That's a combined star for Brian and Jason. I really loved the scenes with Christian and Victoria treating him like an annoying child. Like, just yes, dear, yes, dear. Can you entertain yourself? That was great. I think it says a lot about Victoria's attitude in general. And yeah, I really love the slugger scenes. I'm having a lot of fun with that. And it's taking a bit of a turn in my head from where I expected it. Dom has more than a romantic interest here. So that's going to be fun to see where that goes.
I have stars for the Hargrave House dungeon crawl as well. I was being super snarky in the chat that we just parked Hargrave House on top of the roots of Old Caldur, because that's essentially what it turned into in the best possible way. Ben, I like how in your masks you are choosing to couch your language in very animalistic terms as well. Like your mother literally taking you by the scruff and dragging you home. That's just also really good fodder for your character, and it's coming through really clearly, and I love it. Jakob just I love that he seems at peace with it. He could very easily turn the dial up to 11 and be Kermit the Frog level scared at every single thing that you encounter. But this kind of zen, this genuine curiosity is really fun counterpoint to all of the dark and evil that Hargrave House gets up to. And it's beautiful to watch you role play it, really. Mm-hmm. And then Jason, Admiral Flagg being that kind of neighbor that just, oh, the cops are here, I guess I'll stand outside and see what's going on. Like him just being next door is really fun. And I know this is a star from previous sessions, but the fact that we are just butt up against our mastermind adversary the whole way through the game, or for now until we get a new mastermind later on. Wishes. I have so many wishes. Victoria was so horny this episode, and it just did not go according to plan. And star two for the integral nature in which I, as a player, knew Jason was probably going to be interfering with the ring, because as soon as I put it out there, that's exactly which the volley needs to come back again. I was not expecting it to come back again at the Abbey. That was... I'm looking forward to, again, checking more masks. I think there was probably a moment where I could have in the struggle at the Abbey, but I think the things going badly as they did was part of the kinetic energy of how we played today.
It was good drama. Yeah, I think it was good to roll with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to telling more of the story. Goddamn, guys, it was a good game today.
Any other stars or wishes? Okay, before we go, a scene. A room in the HMS Chimera, which is what Admiral Flagg calls his mansion, is a room that looks like it's decorated to be like the stateroom of a captain's ship. But in the center of it, there are star charts, a model of the universe, a brand new astrolabe and piece of meteorite or Mars rock or whatever it was, and various other things that express an interest or show an interest in space travel, books, charts. And Admiral Flagg is talking to someone who we can't see yet. He says, "You see, I've actually been in contact with someone from the stars. A very, very, how shall we put it? Well, a conqueror, you might even say. A man of a sort, after my own heart. He, at my bequest and behest, is to pay a little visit to our rock. And I intend to make a gift of you to him. To show him just how perfected man can be. You are the strongest of us. You are the best of us. And I want our visitor to see that." And we see now that he is talking to the Shoreditch slugger. I will see you all next week. Take care.